before we begin, I'd love to just do a very quick poll by a show of hands. So how many of you currently assess your services or events? Awesome. Okay, so we have a full room of people who love assessment. Wonderful. And how many of you are using one-question surveys for these assessments? Okay, no one. Okay. And what is your response rate? So show of hands between less than 30%. Okay, between 30 and 60%. And then anyone above 60%. Okay, wonderful. All right, so I will be introducing Becky from Youngstown, and she'll be sharing her story first. There you go. Thanks so much.
Hi, thank everybody for joining us today. I think it is a large crowd for as many sessions that were offered, so I do appreciate you coming in here. If you have a question, I know Shane will probably appreciate if you interrupt him too, because we have two very different presentations, two very different universities. I think it would be a good idea to just interrupt us. If you don't know what we're talking about, shoot your hand up or yell out. I don't think we'll mind. You mind, Shane? Okay. And Shane, are you okay with being recorded? Okay. All right. We're both okay with being recorded too. All right, so just a little bit of background. I'm the director of the Learning Center at Youngstown State University. Some of the services we offer, we're under academic affairs now. We moved from student affairs just a couple years ago. I'm kind of sad about that, but it wasn't a choice that we had. But we have academic coaching, we have tutoring, we have supplemental instruction, and disability services also fall under our umbrella. We did have orientation services and a peer mentor program, but when we moved under academic, they pulled those programs out from underneath us. So we looked at ourselves as a wraparound model. When students came in, we got a hold of them and we served them all the way around, but I think that's a little bit broken up right now. At Youngstown, we're considered urban. We're downtown Youngstown. We connect with the city. We have sidewalks, businesses are being built up all around us right now. We're about almost 13,000 students. We're building our enrollment. We're considered open access. Any other open access universities here? So we do have a conditional admit program, so we'll accept students with ACT scores under 17. So between 15 and 17, is the minimum ACT score is 15. We have a conditional admission program, and those are the students that our academic coaches serve predominantly, or those students that are admitted conditionally. We also have students that are served through the SAT program, through financial aid or academic coaches. Pretty big campus, but I can be to any building in 10 minutes. Beautiful campus too. So think about Generation Z and what they're like. Very digital. Have you ever run into anybody on campus because they were looking at their cell phone? Yeah, me too. Instant, everything's instant. You know, anybody in here from Generation Z or Generation Y, millennials? Yeah. Do you have encyclopedias at home? What? Do you have yeah, no more encyclopedias on our shelf. Yeah. Yeah, right. So now they're coming to campus and we're asking them, fill out the NESI, and our assessment office is coming to us, can you please have your students fill out the NESI? I'm like, well, you're going to have to give them like $5 million. There's 50 questions on the NESI. They're not used to filling out questions or surveys with that many questions. So here's what works for this generation, right? Let me give them a rating. Open food, let's 5-star. Yelp. How many of you use Yelp? Like to give your feedback. Go to a bad restaurant. Oh, I can't wait to get on Yelp. Tell everybody about them. So what does this mean for us? If you're in student affairs and you're giving your students an opportunity, what's that look like? So what we decided to do, actually, we were vetting new presidents and went to an open forum. And one of the candidates, and it was the one I suspected was going to be hired, because he was the coach at Ohio State University, and everybody at our university loved him. Everybody in our community loved him, so I thought he's going to get hired. And he talked about an app that he had brought to Akron State University. I'm like, that's probably a really good idea. If he liked that, you know, something he did. And I should probably try something like that. So we had actually, our student government had been in touch with Oohlala, which they started an app for free with them. And they had connected with me, and at the time I hadn't done it, but this president talked about it, like, this is probably a good idea. So being, you know, academic support, I thought I want students to know about our services, but also it'd be really important if somebody else would split the cost with me and the student activity side. So I got in touch with the student activities director and said, would you be interested in collaborating with me on this project and bringing an app to the university? So she said yes, and we launched that in 2015. So some of the goals that we talked about, let's, you know, reduce the complexity of what campus looks like. We've got a lot of first-gen students coming to Youngstown State. They've never heard, what the heck is a registrar? They don't know what a registrar is. In financial aid, forget about it. You know, it's a really complicated system for first-gen students to walk on campus. So it helped with that. Provides a virtual personal assistant for students. I saw a student lost one time, and I was like running down, you know, to help him. And he's looking at his phone. I'm like, do you need help getting to somewhere? And he's like, oh no, I've got the campus map open right here. I'm like, oh shoot. I didn't get to help him because he had his map open. He didn't need me. Improves the first year student experience. They do have that virtual assistant. They have contacts. They've got a campus wall. Students are getting accepted, and once they have that at ysu.edu address, they're on our campus wall, and they're asking other students about the campus experience right as soon as they get accepted. So that's another plus for us. So we wanted to promote our services, increase usage, have students access our resources, and then give students that platform to communicate. You know, where can all of our students go to? Nobody else can access the campus wall unless they have that at ysu.edu. So you could go on as a guest and look at our app, but only students or faculty, staff can look at actually the campus wall, which is how we want it to be. 83% of our students would go to their peers and say, you should get the app. It's really cool. You should check it out. Another thing we really like is we get to see that real-time student engagement dashboard. So what's going on in a given day, a given week, what are our students doing, where are they checking in? And then we want to look at just this year, this is a new feature that we started using. How can we use this app now to assess what's going on with our services? What we did, and actually the tool that we had, we don't have swipe cards, and that was a problem for us. They were rather expensive, and then some people had Simplicity on our campus, some people didn't have it. We don't have it in the center. We're a Banner school. They didn't have a swipe card system. We have, we're told Banner Vanilla. I don't know if anyone else has Banner Vanilla. I don't really know what that means, but I think it means the cheap version of Banner is really what that means. So we didn't have a lot of technology at our hands. We were having SI sessions where, does everybody know what supplemental instruction is? I'm sorry. So students would check in, and you know, if you have a review session for OChem, which is a very difficult course, we would have 95 students show up and write their name and their banner number down. That was how we were checking students in. Oohlala came to us and said, we have this service check-in feature. When the students open their app, there's a little camera that they open up. Our SI leader has a little QRC code, and they would walk in, scan, walk in, scan, walk in, scan, and the information goes directly to our system. So no more manual check-in. So that was really nice. That's one of the things we did. So we created an event. It's an SI session going on for this SI leader. We enable that tracking. The students will check in, and then they get this push notification to fill out a survey. They can rate that SI leader, and then the SI leader has this dashboard where they can go in and see their ratings. What do you think happened when we started doing that? We just started that this January. What do you think happened when the SI leaders knew students were rating them? What's that? Service improved. My coaches, even my professional, I have 3 full-time academic coaches and 6 graduate assistants that serve as academic coaches. I could not believe how excited they were to go look at their ratings. They would look at the ratings and then they'd run to my office, Becky, I got 5 stars. Becky, so-and-so said this student said that. They were really excited. That was something I really wasn't quite ready for, that they were excited. Now, it wasn't all good, and I'll get there with you here in a second. It's not always all good, right? So we did have that real-time feedback. Whenever the student opened up that app the next time, they were asked to rate. We had some learning outcomes. We got both qualitative and quantitative data from this. And I know a lot of you are thinking, it's not enough, it's not enough. I want 5 questions, I want 10 questions, right? Is that what you're thinking? I always think that way. Another plus for this, if students can look at their profile, they can see their historical engagement record. And I was at the assessment conference next door at the Hyatt Regency. One of the things I heard there, I didn't realize that was happening, instead of transcripts, some universities are moving towards not just a class listing, but what were the learning outcomes? What did the student get from that class? So the transcripts aren't just going to list the class, but also potentially skills that were going to relate to that student's future career. I thought, wow, what if they can also now on their app, they can show their historical engagement record, what leadership conference they attended, what leadership event training on campus they attended. So their co-curricular resume can be right on that app as well. The next thing that we're doing at YSU, we are in the process this summer. Like I said, we started with 2 departments, student activities, the Center for Student Progress, and then Campus Rec jumped on board 6 months later. Well, the whole campus now is looking at the app and saying, how can we get involved? How can we get involved? It was just, a resolution was just passed here recently that we are going to adopt the the app as a campus-wide app. And we have 26 departments. They're going to also use it for assessment in different time intervals. So, I mean, we have other things that are used. We're never going to quit using the NESI, right? That's not going away. We have to collect that data. But we do exit surveys through the registrar's office. We do email surveys. Those are probably going to go away. Please, what's your return rate on email surveys? Do you know what % of your students open your emails? We do at YSU. Do you know your %? What is it?
Ours ranges. Yeah, ours ranges.
About from what?
So you can get as high, at least we can get as high as 70% in our first email out, and that's usually post-orientation, right? So they're super engaged, but as the semester goes on, you're really looking at 30 to 20%,
Yeah.
and most of them have already either taken that email off, because we push through content contact.
Yeah.
It gets all the way down to 20 for the most part.
Yeah, we're between 20 and 30% too. And it seems like the higher the class rank, the less open emails that we can get. And then responses to surveys even less. So how do we measure whether they're going to participate? Sometimes, we do for academic coaching, they would be sitting out in the waiting room. We would say, okay, excuse me, before you meet with your coach, could you fill out this survey? So the coach is in there and they're filling out their survey, and I tell the coach, well, leave the room, or, don't watch them as they're putting their survey in the box. But then the administrative assistant would take those surveys, take the data, enter it, for 5,000 contacts a semester, entering that data. That's a big job. The rec center uses card swipes. For SI, we do head count sometimes. You know, if we piled too many people in the room, we couldn't get everybody to sign. We're trying to do the head count thing. That's always fun. So our current assessment challenges. Whoops. What we're going to try to do is scale and unify our assessment. You know, one of the things I've heard many people talk about at the assessment conference and somewhat here today too is how everybody is doing assessment all over the place. I heard one of the sessions, like the whole division, they were doing division-wide assessment. I thought, what a great idea if we could start to get to that point where we're not all trying to, you know, in a panic, you know, oh, HLC's coming next year, you know, the Higher Learning Commission's coming in, we're going to be assessed. How can we unify what we're doing? But still, we've got to get data about our events. If we're doing an event, is this event working? I want to know, you know, if we're having an SI session and we're going to have 95 people there, I want to know, was that an effective session for those students? Data centralization is very important for us. We tend, in a given year, we can have 42,000 contacts with a student at the Center for Student Progress. Actionable data in real time, increasing those student response rates. And this is really nice. My staff likes this, reducing the manpower in my office. So one of the things we're seeing at YSU is as people retire, we are not hiring new administrative support staff. We are really seeing attrition, and then you just kind of make do with what you have. So it's more and more important that we find ways to be more efficient with the staff that we do have. So 2017, like I said, the first thing that we did was with the SI sessions. We started the swiping. We started the coaching a few weeks later after that, and we started looking at that data and finding out what are students saying to us. And one of the things we realized is students were enjoying it. Somebody asked me the other day, well, do students get tired of rating you? No, they didn't. It depended on the coach. You know, so some of my coaches, I was like, I have one coach that has all these ratings. I had another one that only had like 10 or 15 ratings. What I found out is like, how effective is that person at getting the people to rate them? So I went to her and I asked her, and she's like, well, the first thing they do, I have a table tent here. When they come in, they see my QR code and they know to swipe it. And when they leave, I'm like, don't forget to rate me. You know, so it's training your staff too to do that. Giving students a voice, I think in this day and age, is really, really important. Letting them tell you what they think about your service makes them feel empowered. And if we're working with first-gen students, and I'll give you an example of this. We had an SI leader who had been observed by her supervisor, and the supervisor had given her some, let's say, constructive criticism in an area that she needed to improve upon. She was not listening to her supervisor. The next session, there was a rather large session. One of the students gave her a 2 out of 5-star rating, and she gave her a negative comment. Now, it wasn't a brutal comment, and I thought the comment was constructive. Well, the SI leader was in tears and went to her supervisor. They sat down. What resulted from that was the supervisor, really, it was an area of development. It was a time for a constructive conversation, and the supervisor said to her, honestly, you know, I think you can really be good at this job if you will do X, Y, and Z. Could you try this strategy for me the next time? Just try this one strategy and see if it works and see what the students say. She dried her tears. She's like, I don't know if I can do this job. And she said, try this. I think it'll work for you. She said, okay. She took that strategy, went into the next session. got her ratings, was afraid to open them up, went into her supervisor's office and said, "You open them up, I'm afraid to open up my ratings." So they sat together and she opened up her ratings and she got all 5 stars. The student that had criticized her, because you can see their names, said, "Thank you, that strategy really helped me." So the very thing her supervisor had been trying to get her to do and she would not change, the student feedback was the thing that made her change. So that was highly effective for us in making change. Go ahead.
Are the students able to be anonymous if they choose to be on your system or no?
No.
Okay.
No, their name's tied to it. They could get maybe nasty. Did you ever go on Yik Yak? Oh me. I don't like that anonymous stuff. If you're going to say it, own up to it, right? Go ahead.
So I was going to follow up on that. Since they aren't anonymous, were there any situations where maybe someone who was giving a presentation and then saw who gave them negative feedback and then confronted the student? Or have you been worried about that, where maybe if they were given like a nasty comment by a student, there would be some retaliation by that staff member?
None of the comments were nasty, but they were constructive. So what I have found is that when you put a name with it, you tend to monitor the way you say things is the difference. So I think that helps you be more, follow etiquette more when you put your name with it. And it's a good way to criticize. And they didn't hold back from the criticism, but they did it in the right way. Is how I found it to work. Same thing with, we had an academic coach who got a 3-star rating, and this was the one that was real excited and coming to my office, and then one day she got a 3-star rating, and she's like, "I can't believe it." She's like, she was an international student from France, and she said, "That French student gave me 3 stars. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, really? What happened?" She's like, "I don't know," but I said, "Well, you know who it was?" And she comes in every week, right? Every week the student comes back. I said, "Did she write a comment?" She said, "No." I said, "This would be a good time, have a conversation with her, because your job as an academic coach is to find out what does that student need." So they sat and had a conversation, and pretty much the international students like, no, your sessions are fine. That's just how I rate. Some people are tough raters, and that came through in the conversation. But would we have had these conversations, if not? These can really lead to important conversations. All of the comments. Another really, really good thing, and I'll, where am I at with time? Am I good? Okay. So we launched, like I said, with 2 of our services, SI and coaching. We've had over 4,000 students participate, those visits, 74% response rate. I kind of got ahead of myself and got off script here, so I'll shoot through this. I tend to do that a lot. What I think I'll do next year, because we asked the same question, what did you learn from this session? So what I think I'll do next year with a supplemental instruction is we can tailor the question to the course content next year. Because we see, you might see with your SI programs, a huge uptick at midterms where like a ton of students come right before the exams, or maybe not just midterms, but right before an exam you'll see a room full of students, and then before that you'll have 10 students, then all of a sudden you have 60 students. So we'll make our question more content specific, because the SI is all about processing content. And it's about processing content with specific strategies. So I'm thinking maybe we'll use different strategies next year, or different questions next year around the exam time to see what kind of feedback we get. I think that might be a different way that we'll use it. 80% of the students that did scan in provided feedback for us. They have 2 options. If the student did not download the app, then they would respond via email. We had them log in on an iPad, and then we would send them, they would get an email and say, please, provide feedback. Only 20% of those students actually would rate the session that way. 76% rated if they did it through the app. So you can see the difference between using the app and the email. They get to see their own dashboards, like I said, which is really exciting for them. They're opening them up, looking at them. They have their very own dashboard. And then the comments. You know, I mentioned a negative comment, but a lot of positive comments come in, which increases motivation for those SI leaders. When they see our SI leaders get paid minimum wage or just above minimum wage, although I did get them a raise for this upcoming year, they're going to get paid $10 an hour. But a lot of them, when we interview them, we have to interview for students that are really motivated to support other students' success. So that's key for us. So them getting this type of feedback, I had the best time ever. Tiffany's absolutely wonderful, and I'm so thankful to have her as my SI leader. Them getting that type of positive reinforcement was really a plus for this. So they can get in their email inbox once a week. They'll get like a total report. If they don't go to their dashboard, they'll get that. It really helps them just to get it all in one place. The same thing happened with academic coaching I mentioned. I had a brand new academic coach I'd hired. One was gone in September, and then a new one I trained in October. So I had to train her like in the evenings and on the weekends. She's getting a student load. Of course, again, you hire for people that are going to be able to connect to students, but isn't that the hardest thing to train someone? It's hard to train someone that how do you connect to a student? And as student affairs people, you get that, right? Some people you can't train to do that. So I thought I hired someone that's going to really be good at that. But boy, when we started getting her feedback, it was amazing what students were saying about her. Just one great comment after the other. And she had more comments than any other academic coach that I had. I downloaded her Excel sheet and comments like this. So when I sat down with her to do her 6-month review, one of the things we talked about, I'm like, Tara, look at these comments that students wrote about you. And she had these tears in her eyes. She's like, all my life, I never knew what I wanted to do for a living. She goes, I know what I was good at, but I didn't know I could do this for a living. This is just too much fun. You know, she just loved it so much and was getting this reinforcement about what she was good at. Another plus, another thing that we didn't see coming. So just kind of to tidy this whole thing up, some insights we gleaned that it did act as a motivator for the coaches to do better and the SI leaders. They used it as a self-assessment reflection. I heard them talking to each other as well about it and triggering those conversations between themselves and the students. The students would write comments that took the coaches by surprise. I didn't know they felt that way. And then the next week it was discussed at their session. We use that assessment data for semester and yearly reports. One of the things we implemented new in this past year was Carol Dweck's mindset work. It's a motivational theory. How many of you are familiar with Carol Dweck? So we're brand new to that this past year, and we're going to be tweaking that for the upcoming year. So what I'll do the next year is we created weekly reflection questions for the semester. I thought, what if we put those questions on our review? So our weekly question then will be a mindset question. Could be geared around that for the student to think about what they're doing with their coach. It can be moving them towards that growth mindset, a reflection question. So there's some things that I'm thinking about assessing for the upcoming year. Interest from other departments in using this assessment strategy. Definitely you'll see phase 1's happening even as we speak. There's departments that are meeting. They're not filling in there, but we have 26 that are going to onboard, and then there's more coming in phase 2. And then that real-time intervention that you can see, scaling that assessment, getting that feedback, looking at it daily if you want to. So, again, staff is motivated. We're going to centralize that data all in one place. personalizing assessment for those SI leaders, for those coaches, and the orientation leaders are going to start to use that this upcoming. We're using it at an Ignite program that we have. Next step is those onboarding of the other departments and creating learning outcomes. We just started it spring, so now in my mind I'm thinking about how can I be very methodical about what I want to assess, like I talked about with those mindset questions that I want to ask for spring semester. So I'm really excited to see where we can go with this. It's a simple, easy tool for us to use, and the students really seem to be empowered by it, so we're enjoying it. Thank you very much, and Shane's up next from Oglethorpe.
First, let me tell you a little bit about me. My name is Shane Pruitt. I just finished up a doctoral degree in higher education administration from the University of Memphis. Thank you so much. And at the same time, I was given a brand new department. So as I was finishing it up, I was asked to be the Director of Student Engagement and Leadership in office, I guess you should say, directly under the Department of Student Affairs that had never been on campus before. We had siloed initiatives that were overseen by a weird committee structure. So student government, student activities, Greek life, pretty much everything under the sun we have here. We're trying to do well, but there wasn't an office. There wasn't one point person. There wasn't one sort of assessment person that could overlook and see what was happening with our student engagement over at Oglethorpe, and they chose me to lead that charge. Came from two big universities. I first got my love of higher education from the University of Oklahoma, another large state institution. And so I had been to schools that had done a lot of this same sort of work already. And so I wanted to bring a little bit of that to my under-resourced small liberal arts college, Oglethorpe University. And I've been asked to be a member of our assessment committee, and I help assess all student affairs. We even include athletics in our division, also enrollment, student financial services, and I'm the one guy doing assessment for all of those different programs too. So there's a lot going on in my professional life and maybe not so much in my personal life right now. So a little bit about Atlanta. We are a small school about Oglethorpe in Atlanta of about 1,200 students. We have about 300 adult degree seeking students. And so we found a niche with adults, working adults coming to find their degrees here at Oglethorpe, which is exciting too. We have seen a massive change in diversity in our campus. Over the past 7 years, 34% of our student population comes from non-white sort of populations now, which is much different because we are in a private school in a rich suburb of Atlanta, Georgia. And so we're being faced with different types of questions in different scenarios every day. So it's an exciting time to be at Oglethorpe, and it's an exciting time to hear feedback from students about how they're being served. Are they being served in the right way, in the way that they need? So this is a really great opportunity for us to begin looking at that. 40% of our incoming first-year classes for the past 2 years have been 40% first-gen students, and so that's a new population that we're serving as well. 98% of our student body receives financial aid. So yes, we have changed a lot in the past decade. So it's time to be nimble. It's time to figure out how we make sure that they're making a good investment in our small college when they could have easily gone 8 miles away to Emory or 4 miles away to Georgia Tech. So we're trying to really prove that to our students. So how are we doing that? Well, first of all, we do know that we're doing one thing well. We're placing students in their careers. That's something that Oglethorpe has done really well over the past few years. We do an outcome survey. So for the past 3 years, 90% of our young alums say that they're satisfied with their post-graduation placement. This is exciting. 85% of our graduating class is employed or finds themselves in grad school 6 months after they graduate from Oglethorpe. I think that's what we do well. We're in Atlanta, we leverage that, and we help students find that internship that's going to get them their job later on. So we do have that small family feel, and that's something that we're able to produce for those students. So we're so happy with how we do this. We made a promise to our students. If you graduate in 4 years, so we're really trying to build up our 4-year retention rate right now, or graduation rate, sorry. If you graduate in 4 years, and you find that you don't get a job or get into the grad school 6 months out, then you can come back to Oglethorpe for free for your 5th year. So that's a promise we've made because we're so proud of how we're placing our students. But here's the problem. Even though we're good at this, we really don't know why or how we're good at it. We know that we're making these connections, and we know that all of a sudden somehow like outcomes are coming in our favor, but what pieces of the student experience is really setting us apart as an institution? Because once we bottle that up, guess what? We get to actually market it, give it to admissions, and then all of a sudden we're not serving 1,200 students, we're serving 2,000 students, and my paycheck gets bigger. So there's some really neat implications for us to be able to really start making student-centered, data-driven decisions. So right now, yeah, mine's not filling in either, but right now, we really, for the past several years, have been using anecdotal evidence to be like, well, students seem to be enjoying their experience here. They're getting jobs. We're doing good. But really what I'm interested in doing in my new department, proving my worth to the president that gave me the 4 people that work under me, is to really show data about how we're making a difference in these student lives. I didn't know where to turn at first. Enter Oohlala. So we had difficulty with swipe card technology at first. Some words that are supposed to be in these boxes include, swipe technology was expensive for us because you have to buy all these different hardware units. I don't have the money for that. I'm trying to buy tacos for the athletic reception that's happening after the volleyball game. You know, I don't have time for all this hardware. It's difficult, so if you have, it takes a lot of time, so if you have 12 different events happening all at the same time and all using these swipe cards, then who, is it going to be me? Is it going to be a student worker that takes all those spreadsheets and put it into one and somehow figures out some sort of assessment objective from it? That's not how I want to use my student leaders' time. I want them to help me figure out how to engage their peers. I don't want them doing data entry. So how can we work smarter than that? And last but not least, here we couldn't get all the events. So if we really wanted to get a full picture of how students are, the essence of their student experience for every single event, I can't be all places all at once. There's not enough students in my student workers that I have to carry all these card swipers around to gather all this experience. So how can we find a solution where everybody can give their feedback? So we're going mobile. So I started with my new office 2 years ago, and we're getting good. We're getting pretty good. A year before that, we made a really good decision that I don't know was fully informed by data. It just looked cool to do, and that was to get Oohlala. So the person before me, who is now my assistant director, ended up getting Oohlala. We had a mobile portal, and we certainly had students that were using it, but just because you have a mobile portal doesn't mean that you have a great strategy to make sure that it's being used to its fullest potential. So what we decided to do over the past 2 years is really think like Gen Z. Thank you, Gen Z. Thank you so much, Becky, for telling us a little bit about what they expect, what this new generation expects. We now know that even the student engagement realm, we need to be relevant, we need to be fast. Because if we're not, students are going to go to the next thing. And so what we've decided to do was to make our app sexier. So we put really cool information like our Petrel Promise on the app. We put every single one of our campus resources that we have available. 100% of our services across the campus are listed on the app so students can find that easily. What we found is that students in Gen Z are scared of the real world, talking to people with flesh. They would rather talk to their phones. So why not meet them where they are? That's not something negative. That's what I prefer to do. So let's actually create this community virtually, if that's what they're looking to do. Let's do it in a healthy way. And so that's what Oohlala is allowing us to do. And as we build this community, guess what? We are slowly putting on these facets that help us measure engagement, what's really happening in this online community. This is something that I did not think was ever possible. 100% adoption of our full-time enrolled students. Every single student at Oglethorpe University has the Oglethorpe University app. How did we do that? Believe you me, the app logo was on every email, was on every poster, was on every flyer. We made students do it, and so if you were a student leader and if you wanted to put an event on, you started with the app. Inputting your information on the event on the app. So you had to in order if you wanted to carry out an event. If you wanted to go to a service, so if you wanted to talk to financial aid, or if you wanted to talk to one of our SIs, you had to show them the app. And if that didn't happen, we trained everyone to say, where's your app, where's your app, where's your app? So after a few months, we ended up getting everyone on the app. And this is what's really cool. We allowed parents to view it as well. And if you didn't download it because I said it, you're going to download it because Mama said it. So Mom's on the app saying, John, why are you homesick? There are 12 events happening tonight. John, go to one of these events, John. And then students are able to say, okay, Mom, I'm going to download this app and then really be engaged because parents are actually on the app too. Now, it's two different, the parents don't get full functionality, but they do get the cool things that we know that they were going to tell John about, right? And then this was the hard part, faculty. But here's what has happened with app adoption of faculty. Once they realized that was the cool thing to do on campus, faculty want to be cool just like everyone else. So they started to push their events on campus that were more curricular in nature. And so we got to see a lot of energy just around the app. It became our hub, our central hub of information. And what is really neat, we built such a great community that 93% of our students would recommend the app to their peers. So we had done a good job of building the app. As a matter of fact, I didn't do so much of the work. I let Oohlala do the work for me. I just kind of gave them a little bit of what our culture of our campus was, and they really helped us build a platform that students could get excited about to tell their peers. So here's some statistics just really quickly. In the past 6 months of last year, so the fall semester of last year, we had 426 relevant questions on the app. How do I make an appointment with my academic advisor? Questions like where can I find how to apply for to run for student government, like those type of questions on campus. This is fun. 72% of these 426 questions were actually answered, not by me and not really by my staff, by other students in the community that were that had been in these students' shoes before they were asking these questions. And of course, I monitored the wall, and if there was any misinformation, then sure, we would correct it. But my students on my campus, especially my engaged ones that I gave the opportunity to answer questions, were just as good at giving the information as I was. Very rarely did I find misinformation, and that was an easy fix if I did. And here's something too. Students are asking questions on the wall, and they're getting an answer in 11 minutes. It takes longer than that to try to track me down because I'm in 12 places at once, or any of my assistant directors because they're doing something in the basement somewhere, and they're getting their answers faster, which keeps them coming back to the app because they begin to trust it as a place to get their information in a timely fashion. And this is what I'm most excited about. 75% of the students on our campus feel like that they've become a stronger part of the community because of the existence of the app. So if we're trying to build this community, we're giving them a virtual way to feel like they can be a part of it and not feel bad about it. That seems to be working well for us. So we had, over the past couple of years, well, I'll just take this last year, 10,000 event views. So imagine there's 1,000 students on my campus. That means that a single student is averaging using this resource 10 times throughout the semester. Can you imagine a student going to any one of your physical places 10 times in the semester, whether that be maybe tutoring, you may get there, but any sort of advising or financial aid? No, really not. But they are going to this resource, and this resource is a solid resource for them, and they keep coming back. Some top events that students were looking at. For example, in September, we had an anatomy fashion show by our pre-medical school, pre-med fraternity. And guess what I did? I said, guess what, president of Phi DE, pre-med fraternity? You are the most viewed event on the app for September. Here's your prize. You've won. You've been the most engaging student organization. That really starts to get other organizations to be like, I want to be the best now. And so we've started to really reward students and leaders for how well that they've been rated, or how much students are taking a look at their events. Services as well. So in September, if we want to take that example, we had dining services, campus safety, and the rec center as some of our top services that were viewed on the app. Those aren't student engagement and leadership office services. Those are things that I don't oversee, but there's a halo effect around we've built this app, and all of a sudden all these other departments and offices are getting a lot of attention, which means that they want to then come to me and collaborate with me. So it's not pulling teeth to say, please, dear sweet baby, give me some information, or let me help you work with a dining services activity to promote health and wellness. They're coming to me because the app is a great place, and then I'm the gateway for the app in a lot of ways. So we're able to show data in a way that makes people feel like that it's a good investment for them to get involved. So here's the big thing that I want to show you. We were able to launch tracking of our events, and we had 100% of all events on our campus be rated or to go through the app. As a matter of fact, we had over 950 events that students could view on the app. Some of those were academic, some of those were co-curricular, some of those were athletic. But here's something that I was really interested in and really looking at closely, especially the data. 130 events over the past two semesters, so fall and spring, were directly related to my office. So student engagement and leadership put on these events. These are things like bystander intervention trainings, student government town halls, some fun stuff, some not fun stuff. And those are things that I'm really trying to assess. Are we doing a good job with these about 130 events that I do, that I show up at? That are really important to my office and the mission of my office. Of these 130 events, we had about 2,211 attendees across them. So if you average that out, it's about 17 students per event. At a small liberal arts college like Oglethorpe, getting near 20 students at a sexual assault seminar is hard. But we've done it because students found it in the app, they've accessed it, and they know where to find it, and they know they're going to have their voice heard afterwards too about it, so it gives a way to continue to build that community. With an average rating of all of our events about a 4.5. For those student organizations that don't get a 4.5, guess what I get to do? I get to say, an advisor for that particular student organization, that organization that you oversee, or president of that student organization, you actually ended up getting like a 4.3 on your event. Do you know over 950 events, the average rating is a 4.5? Let's talk about how you can just be 10% better next time. And that's really how my advisors get information to start, how to make student engagement higher quality for those student organizations on our campus. Services too, which is scary to get into that you're being rated, but at the same time, if it's student-centered, we need to heed what students are saying about our services and how we're being rated. And this is all happening in real time. So an hour after an event, I normally have everybody's feedback, and I can be able to unpack that and share it with advisors and other people. So we know that as students get on the app, they're a lot more likely to go to an event, right? And if that's right, hopefully event attendance can be used to show who's going to stay at school, who's going to be retained. This is going to blow your mind. This is fun. I now know at Oglethorpe University, after a full year, that if a student doesn't go to at least 5 events, they're in danger of not coming back the next semester. That could mean other things are in flux too, like grades, personal situations, financial situations, whatever the fact is. But for my realm, what I can affect, I need to make sure that in a semester, a student is going to at least 5 events. And we very rarely have a student that engages in 2 events or less that come back. So we all kind of know this. I think we all kind of have anecdotes that this is what's happening. But on my campus, for my culture, I know this to be true. And so how can I push students to make sure that they're going to engage 5 times this semester so we won't lose them? That's our next phase. One way that we're able to make sure that we're tracking these students or actually getting the attention of these students is taking this multivariate approach to retention. So in the past, our Student of Concern Committee, which is made of our Academic Success Center, which Becky knows a lot about, our Dean of Students, Residence Life, and our Counseling Center, they get together once every 2 weeks, and they say who's not making good grades and who is not going to class. People who aren't going to class are being flagged by faculty members who fill out a WUFU form, and that goes to them. I never had a seat at that table. Student engagement never had a seat at that table when I knew that if students are out of class 85% of their college career, that I'm a big part. Our office is a big part of how much the student is actually choosing to be at school or not be at school. So I am now the 3rd prong in our Student of Concern Committee, so that whenever we see that a student isn't engaging in student activities, we also look at their grades, we also look at how much they're going to class, and then we could say, we need to get to this student's stat, send a residence life, an RA, a resident assistant, down to the residence hall right now and report back, where's this student? So that's how we're operating now. In the end, we're really trying to personalize the experience for our students. I know we only have a minute or 2 left. In the end, we're trying to personalize this pathway for our students, be more as mentors on campus, be more intrusive in getting students the information that they don't even know that they need. And so how are we answering questions about financial aid, career services, recommending organizations that students could be interested in, before students even know that that's what they're interested in? That means that we have to understand this ideal student success pathway, and I think that we're well on our way to getting there. One way that we've made some links between persistence, retention, the student success pathway, is to make sure that we're keeping track of our GPAs. We do know that something is happening with app usage and higher GPAs. I don't know if there's causation in any way, but if they're coming to Oglethorpe relatively the same GPA because we have admission standards, in the first year, those students who use the app multiple times have higher GPAs. And I think maybe it's because those students sure are more engaged anyway, but it never hurts to give students more information. And I think that's really what's helping them. So if we can get more students to look at the app, make it even better than it is now, we're going to set them up for success to help with their GPAs. So we already talked a little bit about the intervention. We showed this slide as well. This is basically the dashboard that I get to see, to take snapshots about. There are now 100 people who have rated events this week, those type of things. It's easy for me to get insights on, because guess what? I have a vice president that says, how many students have checked on the app today? Because she's all excited about it, and I get to go to this dashboard, print it off real quick, and then send it to her. She takes it to the president, and I get my app for the next year, paid for. So it's really important for me to be able to, make sure that it's still being a trusted source. So basically, here's now what we're doing, intervening for our students. At the 6-week mark, I work with our academic advising program on campus to help me talk to students when they come for the first 6-week checkup. If that student hasn't been to 3 events, you need to have a conversation with them. So I am in direct partnership with our first year advisors. If at the end of the semester, they don't have at least 6 events, all hands on deck. They might not be back in the spring. And so I am intentionally messaging, I'm creating prizes, giveaways, anything to make sure that we haven't lost the students' attention. And then by the end of the year, if they don't have 12 events, then we probably really have problems. Because if you can't go to 12 things in 2 semesters, then that's pretty bad. So we have now moved what used to be a decentralized process into one that is completely collaborative and predictive. So here's some lessons that we learned. It's important for us to centralize not only my office in a new student engagement and leadership platform, but all the information in one place. We need to start personalizing content based on what the students are interested in. And we even changed the way we deliver events. We get micro feedback, so this is called micro feedback, the one-stop shop. You ask the question, is one question enough? For us, it is, because after our star rating, it says, give us a comment about your star rating. We've changed a lot of things that we offer. So, for example, we have students that need ADA accessible services, and we were hosting events in non-accessible places. And the first time that I got that feedback, it broke my heart, but I didn't even think about it. And so I helped student leaders to move this reoccurring event out of the old auditorium that had 5 steps. And it was only 5 steps was limiting 3 students from going up the stairs and enjoying that student organization. Crazy. We even changed the way that we do food. We realized that I sure was having a lot of gluten on the menus. After a couple of sets of feedback, we changed the way that we're feeding students, and we're getting right now a more inclusive campus on the outside because the data that we're getting on the app inside. And so we really feel like the app is setting us up for success, and students really feel like that they're being heard. As a matter of fact, in the future, I'm really interested in just having a tile on the app that is open feedback. Do you have something you want to tell, positive or negative? Let me know. That's an easy fix. That's something that Oohlala can do for us in about 10 seconds. They can do it. So that's something that I think I'm really interested in, because right now I'm data hungry. I'm like, look at all these things that we're changing for the better, and students are really appreciating it. I think that's my buzzer, literally. We have 60 seconds more if you want to hang out with us longer. This may be the last session of the day. So do you have any questions for Becky or I know it's a lot. Yes?
Okay, so I'm just trying to connect the dots.
Yes.
The research right now coming out about Gen Z, some of it is saying like they don't want more than what they need, right? That's the generation that's coming up. They want what they need when they need it in order to be successful. So when we're thinking about our college campuses, you know, we're thinking about financial aid, when they're thinking about events, when they're thinking about advising, like. And so I guess my question is, they know they need coursework, right, and to do well in school in order to succeed, to get a degree, to get a job, right? So that's the trajectory. That's if going to college is what they choose. And so I guess talk to me about how either of you, because I know Becky, you're really in the academic support process, but how is this connecting to the online course selection process? Is it integrating into course selection? Can students see their GPA in their classes through this, or are they also having to go to another portal, Canvas, Blackboard, whatever is happening, to do that work? So then they're interfacing with 2 separate pieces. So I love the persistence work, but if a student is not able to, or they're making the choice to be in classes and go to work, then if we're intervening just based off events,
no, it's lovely.
right, and so I'm just curious,
no,
because it's student, right now, like there's no application that's connecting all of it, and I think that's I'm in retention work, so I'm hearing it, so I'm just curious.
I don't know what Youngstown has, but we have LMS integration. So we're a Moodle school. And so what's really neat is we do an integration to where not only do classes populate under the tile in the student app that says, here are your classes for the week, also whatever the instructor puts as a syllabus item in their Moodle course also rolls into the calendar. So they can put reminders, oh gosh, I have a paper next week. Right next to that, in the same calendar, in a different color is, oh, I'm a student leader that has to go to this, and then I'm also an athlete, so I have to go here. Yes, as far as space and visualizing time, the app does have that opportunity. So what do our advisors do? Our advisors say, pull up your app, let's see what your next couple of days look like, and let's study for chemistry here. That type of stuff. And so, yeah, not all schools choose to do integration. I don't know if y'all do. We have.
We're doing our integration right now, but are you asking about, like, as far as students seeing like a curriculum sheet?
Not the curriculum sheet, but I guess what I'm not struggling with this. I like what's happening here. What I'm struggling with is trying to connect the concept of Gen Z and what they're looking for in that one-stop shop to get it all done. And so if we were to take it onto our campus, does it integrate more than just events or more than just academic support services? Can it integrate all and still work to what a student needs and can be individualized to that student? Because if it's not, much like events, like if I'm not going to events, why do I need the app?
Yeah.
Right. And so on a 40,000 person student campus, that's what I'm thinking about. Right?
No, that's a great question. And the outlay of the app is a series of tiles. And what's really great is those tiles can be modulated to point to whatever instance that it is. And so our alumni relations and development team has a philanthropy tile that talks about how important to give to the annual fund and how that all makes a difference to how much money our tuition dollars are at a private school. Yes, there is a tile that points to advising, information about advising. So it is really the only place on campus that you can go in and see all the services all in one place, all from the home screen. So it is really integrated that way if you choose to.
And we can integrate with any other software any specific department is using, Handshake with Career Services or whatever that might be, any LMS, single sign-on, etc.
Now that's a great question. That's so important.
Go ahead.
Now,
Question. So, did you see any type of pushback from like your institutional research or institutional assessment office with you kind of taking ownership of your own assessment? Because I know one of the issues that we're running into is if I want to do like any kind of basic assessment, like using SurveyMonkey or using WorkSync or any of that kind of stuff, we get pushback because they want to be the keeper and the manager of all data and stuff. So I just wanted to know, did you find that you received any type of pushback as you were rolling these things out?
I have a couple of examples of that.
Yeah, we have never had that kind of pushback from our assessment office. We're in the process right now. We just hired a consultant, and I missed a meeting last week, but one of the questions the consultant asked is, why are you doing assessment, not the assessment office? And my associate director was kind of taken back, like we had never heard that question because the assessment office needs help. It's a small staff. So at our institution, departments are responsible for their assessment with the guidance of the assessment office.
Yeah, so under this personalization content based on student interests, so we have a lot of student interest surveys. We do BESI, everyone does BESI for incoming students. We also do a campus climate survey that asks about alcohol, what students are interested in alcohol-free programming. We also have a first year experience orientation survey. How I've sold this app is an ability to actually flesh out the percentages that we see coming from BESI. And things that really don't tell a great story. What we're able to do now is not just have a percentage about what's your expected transition difficulty. Here's an actual question that I use the app for. So expected transition difficulty question on the BESI was like, how hard of a time do you think it's going to be here? We can now use the app to get some narrative information that goes on top of the 10% of our students feel like they're going to have a really bad, hard transition time and really fulfill a lot of that, fill in some of those gaps. And so right now, what we're really working on, so this is lessons learned, things that we're going to do in the future, is go to our assessment committee and says, what pieces of the institutional mission do you really feel like that you need some more of this narrative data with? And let me figure out a way to ask it on the app and fill in those holes. And so I think if I approach it that way, they're really excited. If I say, we don't need you, like I figured out how to get the best student voice, then they shut me down. So we work together.
Have you seen any retention impact?
Yeah, so we have a retention rate from fall to spring, so trying to get students choosing to come back in the fall. So we all know, we're all student affairs people, we know that in the first 6 weeks, students are making that decision, am I gonna come back or not? So we really take a look at what is happening from fall to spring. In the past 2 years, with its extra emphasis on the app, we've increased retention with that cohort by 4%. So we're seeing that many students come back because I really feel like that we're building a better community in the place where they feel community, especially with this generation on the app. And so yeah, it's made a big impact for us. The president is very happy. Anything else? Yay, we did it! You all did it!